Morning. Today I'm going to read from a book called Waiting by Ha Jin. Ha Jin was, when I was in grad school in Boston, he came into our program about halfway through, and just a super nice, remarkable guy. This book it really got through to me. It's a story about a doctor in China who falls in love with one of his nurses, and he's married. So this infatuation sort of ends up taking over his life, and eventually, it's interesting because of the culture there. He's not able to ever even have a conversation with this woman alone for years, but he finally manages to extricate himself from his marriage and get together with this woman, and that's where the story really gets interesting. I mean, he does an amazing job of setting up that whole relationship, but when they finally get together, well, let's just say it's a great story about how infatuation can be much more exciting than the actual than reality. So this is the prologue, the beginning. Every summer, Lin Kong returned to Goose Village to divorce his wife, Shu Yu. Together they had appeared at the courthouse in Wujia town many times, but she had always changed her mind at the last moment when the judge asked if she would accept a divorce. Year after year, they went to Wujia town and came back with the same marriage license issued to them by the county's registry office 20 years before. This summer, Lin Kong returned with a new letter of recommendation for divorce, which had been provided for him by the Army Hospital in Muji City, where he served as a doctor. Once more, he planned to take his wife to the courthouse and end their marriage. Before he left for home, he had promised Mana Wu, his girlfriend at the hospital, that this time he would try his best to make Shu Yu stick to her word after she agreed to a divorce. As an officer, he had a 12-day leave each year. Since the trip home took a whole day, he had to change trains and buses at 2 towns. He could stay in the countryside only 10 days, saving the last day for the return trip. Before taking this year's leave, he had thought that once home, he would have enough time to carry out his plan. But by now, a whole week had passed, and he had not yet mentioned a word to his wife about the divorce. Whenever the subject came to his tongue, he postponed it for another day. Their adobe house was the same as 2 decades before, 4 large rooms under a thatched roof and 3 square windows facing south with their frames painted sky blue. Lin stood in the yard, facing the front wall while flipping over a dozen mildewed books he had left to be sunned on a stack of firewood. Sure thing, he thought. Shu Yu doesn't know how to take care of books. Maybe I should give them to my nephews. These books are of no use to me anymore. Beside him, chickens were strutting and geese waddling. A few little chicks were passing back and forth through the narrow gaps in the paling that fenced a small vegetable garden. In the garden, pole beans and long cucumbers hung on trellises. Eggplants curved like ox horns, and lettuce heads were so robust that they covered up the furrows. In addition to the poultry, his wife kept 2 pigs and a goat for milk. Their sow was oinking with the pig pen, which was adjacent to the western end of the vegetable garden. Against the wall of the pig pen, a pile of manure waited to be carted to their family plot, where it would go through high-temperature composting in a pit for 2 months before being put into the field. The air reeked of distillers' grains mixed in the pig feed. Lin disliked the sour smell, which was the only uncomfortable thing to him here. From the kitchen where Shu Yu was cooking came the coughing of the bellows. In the south, elm and birch crowns shaded their neighbors' straw and tiled roofs. Now and then a dog barked from one of these homes. So as you can see, he's a master of detail. He builds the story around the details, and it's just a wonderful book. It was it was a finalist for the National Book Award. Actually, it won the National Book Award. So, thanks. Have a great day.